Hello and welcome to the Let's Talk Azure podcast with your host Sam Foote.
And Armstrong.
If you're new here, we're a pair of Azure and Microsoft 365 focused IT security professionals. It's episode 35 of season 5. Alan and I had a discussion around the news in September. Here are a few things that we covered. Key Microsoft Entra, Intune and Defender features and updates. Azure changes, new features and any retirements. We've noticed that a large number of you aren't subscribed. If you do enjoy our podcast, please do consider subscribing. It would mean a lot to us for you to show your support to the show. It's a really great episode, so let's get started. Hey Alan, how are you doing this week?
Hey Sam, not doing too bad. How are you?
Yeah, really good, thank you. We took a little break, didn't we? A little respite for a week's downtime. How was your podcast holiday?
Weird. It was different, I suppose.
I think it was about halfway through the week. I was like, oh no, we haven't organised when we're going to record the podcast. And I was thinking, oh no, it's actually okay. So yeah, it was weird. It was very strange.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think last week was pretty busy at work. This week's busy at work. And in between that somewhere we had a LAN, didn't we? So
yeah, we played games all weekend.
Gaming.
Yeah, so it just made sense, didn't it? What else exciting's happened in your world, Alan? I believe you may be going out to an exciting event.
Oh, am I? Getting the opportunity to go over to Ignite with a colleague this time. So yeah, I think it's gonna be fun. We're gonna see what the new location's like and everything as we keep talking about.
Yeah, it's going to be great to see it sold out super rapid, didn't it? I don't know if it had sold out by our last episode, maybe?
Yes.
It had,
it was three. Yeah. It was like 3 days, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
It sold out, the technical side anyway.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. Yeah, so, fair play to everybody that got a ticket, and good to see that they've added the extra day, and hopefully with the combination of the partner side, it's going to drive more attendance, more collaboration. You know, it really sort of, you know, for partners especially, it really adds a business case, doesn't it, to going, you know? So, the more people that can go, the better, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. So
nice. Right, what are we on this week, Alan? It is news. Do you want to kick us off with your side of things?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I can talk about some of the news that came out of September. I don't remember what month it was last month. It's only a couple of days in, but it already feels like we're halfway through it, to be fair. Okay. So, where should I start? That is a good question. Okay, let's talk about Defender XDR, Paul, or Defender XDR overall. So in here, there was quite a few updates. One of them was the global search that's new, which allows you to, in effect, search at the top of the portal for any entities that are that are identified within the sort of Defender XDR and Sentinel sort of environments. So that is now generally available. So I think they went into public preview sort of maybe a month ago or something like that. Makes it really easy to go and find your assets and then see what information's around it. We've got the general availability GAing of Copilot in Defender. It now includes the identity summary capability. So be able to provide instant insights into user risk levels, risk activities, and things like that. So assuming that then you're able to, in effect, ask it, what's the risks of this user kind of scenario, in a very non-prompt engineering way that would be, but it's very simple, I think, from a request there from asking a generative AI, but yeah, in effect, that sort of scenario. More Defender XDR unified RBAC permissions being added to around the Defender expert side of things, and there's some hunting context panels that are being added into the advanced hunting there. So some good things there. Starting to bring all the new features, I guess, into that portal, and maybe not rightly or wrongly, not as much. Probably moving into sort of the Sentinel side, if that makes sense. I guess it's because it's kind of feeding it into that one portal now.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing a merging, aren't we? Yeah, that's for sure. Search seems good to me. That seems like it would be valuable. Kind of makes you think why they haven't had a search before, I suppose. But anyway, they're not going to moan that it's not been there. But I've never really thought about that really, because you sort of slice it yourself by going to different portals, don't you? Really, and hunt and sort of navigating through yourself. There's no, yeah. I suppose it's so big now; it needs like search for its navigation.
Yeah, you're right. You kind of like went to the devices or the identities and just searched under the assets now. But you used to go to the products and then search for the entities kind of thing. But I think with the integration with Sentinel, then they've had to sort of bring in a better searching mechanism, I guess, because you've got the raw data then, haven't you, within the Sentinel, and it's got its own sort of entity pages, which I guess are now integrating into will start to integrate into the assets and things like that, as well as I guess some of the assets and things like that that's coming out of the exposure management side of things and attack surface, etc. There.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, really good.
Yeah, so next one I'm going to talk about Sentinel. Kind of segue myself there without even knowing it. Okay, so in here we've got some schema mapping added in for scene migration experience. So this is around schema mapping, specifically around Splunk macros and Splunk lookups, being able to translate them into, in effect, what you do in Sentinel. So definitely building that sort of area up, which I haven't really sort of touched, to be fair, around migration. It's always been new builds for myself or existing Sentinels.
Yeah.
Not really looked at the migration side of things.
Yeah, I suppose it's like content conversion, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah. Your alerting rules or your detections then being converted into analytic rules, or they said other things, or just being able to help convert the data into the tables. If you want to transfer your current year's worth of logs maybe into Sentinel, so you don't have to start from scratch and keep both as well.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, really good.
We've got the general availability of importing and exporting automation rules using ARM templates, which is really good because that was a thing that you couldn't. That was one of the sort of content areas that you couldn't do. So it's definitely going to help MSSPs and things like that to be able to then deploy their own automation rules. It's going to be really good. Google Cloud Platform data connectors are now generally available. So it must be in preview. I have to say I haven't been keeping track of that one. And then the other one, which is I think is quite important, is like Defender for Cloud. Microsoft have brought out a new pre-purchase plan for Microsoft Sentinel. So being able to reserve the Sentinel commit units, SCUs, which isn't going to help the world when we talk about SCUs for Copilot for Security.
My God. Okay. Yep.
But so in effect, you can prepay for your ingestion there. That includes that you do your pre-tiering on the analytic or on Sentinel. So if you've got 100 gig of ingestion per day and you get a discount there, you can then add this reservation on top. I believe this is you purchase up front for a year scenario rather than like other Azure reservations like virtual machines that you can pay monthly for it. So again, trying to save some money. I think there were some examples of something like 200 gig of ingestion. Let me just find it quickly. 200 gigabytes a day of ingestion would normally cost 160,000 USD, and it can be dropped down to 78,000 I think is the suggested thing here.
What,
Of a
so
51% saving, possibly.
what, on top of your tiered cost?
I think that might be a
Was it
combination total, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, the original pay-to-go price for 200 for 5 months of 200 gig would cost 160,000. With the accumulated commitment tier and the pre-purchase plan, you can get down to 78,000.
Okay, so it's in
51% saving.
combination. That's from the pay-as-you-go rate. Yeah. Okay, fine.
Yeah, and I think the first tier is something like 30, 20, it's 31%, the 100 gig, and then maybe it goes up to 35. So it's adding another 20% saving on top.
That's similar to Defender for Cloud, isn't it? The commit is about 20%.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah. So
the maximum's 22, I think, but you can go from 10 to 22.
okay, fine. Yeah. Okay. Okay, nice.
So yeah.
Yeah, you just got to pay up front though, haven't you? It's a bit.
But
yeah. But you know.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Well, yeah, that's good if you are running it a year, and also if you've got like a managed service, things like that, because you can pay it up with the managed service on top as well, can't you? In effect, hopefully.
Yeah, and that's one of the what's the best way to put it? It's one of the blockers, isn't it, for Sentinel, really, because of its, I'm not criticizing it for that, but there is a, consumption cost, isn't there? Of ingestion. And anything to lighten that load as much as possible is a good thing, isn't it? Again, you do have to have a bit of skin in the game and pre-purchase, so there's that to think about, but at least you have options.
Yeah, I can't remember what the tiering is on it. What's the lowest you can start with, sort of thing. But I'll take a look at that at some point. Okay, Defender for Cloud Apps, MDA. So in here there is kind of the enhancement to the using Microsoft Edge in browser sort of protections. This is now allowing you to enforce Edge in browser when using business apps. So instead of actually saying, well, you can potentially use Chrome, you can use Firefox, etc., as long as you're from a managed device, this is actually enforcing it now to say, hey, you have to be signed into Edge. And I think the main thing for this is sort of the security of Edge and how much, from a management perspective, you can sort of control it. Not saying you can't do that with Chrome, but there are additional things in Edge because it's, we'll say, some of the add-on stuff that's on top of the Chromium sort of base is first party. But then the second part is just in effect that reverse proxy technology, or not using it and it being baked in. So I think that's pretty cool as well. They are removing the ability to email end users about block actions. I think this is probably for two reasons. One is maybe notification fatigue, maybe on some of the notifications, but also potentially sending an email to say you're being blocked and that it's been flagged might be bad if you're letting the bad actor know as well in that scenario. So
nice, yeah.
So that's removing. And there's another one in here, and it's more around a connected app called Mural being added into preview. It may be something you use. It looks like it's like a brainstorming sort of technology that you can use, and it looks like it can be used with Copilot as well in there. So it's probably something that you would probably want to protect.
Nice.
The next one is Intune. So on Intune, there's an update to the PKCS Intune connector. Just more around the requirements for it. I think there's an update to Active Directory, so they just need to and Entra, so they just need to make sure it's up to date to manage that side of things. But there's another one around app protection policies and the ability to set your work hours, so that you can force the applications to, in effect, not work for the time outside of work hours. So that's actually the organisation forcing it. Now I know in some countries, I can't remember which ones, there are some legal, government government requirements to say that you can't work outside your work hours. You can't even receive email on your devices, things like that.
But
So I
Alan,
think it's a bit...
how will employees work unpaid overtime?
Well, I said when there's regulatory compliances or requirements or government requirements, it needs.
This doesn't support my my drive for capitalism. I'm sorry, but no, this is great, really good. Yeah, that's yeah, especially because, like you said, I can't remember the regions that have that, but there are very strict, yeah,
I think it was
working hour rules, right?
Germany might be one of them, or I don't know, can't remember.
Yeah,
but
good that you can put that in place as a mechanism to control that, and also that's going to be good for organizations for reporting about what they are actually doing, right? Instead of just saying, oh, it's our policy that your line manager will not message you outside of work hours. Well,
no, you can't even see it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's there as a technical control, isn't it? So that's really good. Yeah.
Yep, so the app won't even launch. It's not like you go into it and it says, hey, you're not allowed to work. It just says, no, can't access it.
Does it kill the app?
It's in effect when you try to log into it, when you launch it, it will say, no, you don't meet the required sort of requirement or the conditions to launch. Kind of thing if your account was, if you were non-compliant, things like that.
Okay, nice.
There's been some updates to the enterprise app catalog. The ability to be able to they've been adding new applications into it to increase the catalog in there. And then there's a few new updates to the Apple settings catalog. It kind of looks like it might be some of the sort of the applications and things like that in there. Some web content filtering stuff as well. And kind of the deprecation of Android administration, Android device administrator mode, basically for Samsung as well. Because in effect that's being deprecated, one by Google, but also by Intune, because it's not supported, or it's not in the supported operating systems. There's a few more things in here, but I think that's some of the key ones. And then lastly, Defender for Cloud. Kind of jump into the Azure area, which will kindly make us segue into your area, Sam. Not planned, honest.
Mm-hmm.
So one part is the general availability of the file integrity monitoring based on Defender for Endpoint, because the old mechanism uses the Microsoft monitoring agent, which is now deprecated. Still working, but I don't think you can deploy it anymore. They've also got the GA of actually the new file integrity monitoring migration experience. So being able to move between the two. So as they've GA'd the actual technology, they then allowed you to then make it easy to migrate. They have integrations with Power BI now. So you can now create custom reports and dashboards using the data for Defender for Cloud directly, which is quite interesting. I guess it's kind of there anyway, it's just they've actually built in the connectors for it.
Nice, really good.
And yeah, I think there's a few others in here, but that's the main ones for me.
Nice, thanks for that, Al. Right, let's go on to Azure then. Quite a lot of changes. Public service announcement. There was a lot of retirements in August, and also a lot of retirements announced in September as well. I haven't got all of them because I only pick stuff that I get excited by, if that makes sense. So just the public service announcement. Always make sure if you are building or you use Azure in any real way to make sure that you are checking the updates. Just Google Azure update feed and just make sure you're keeping an eye on it. Subscribe to it. Do whatever you need to do, because especially if you've got older resources, things can be retired and you may need to do maintenance to keep things live. And obviously secure as well. So, but we won't go into that. Right. So, first one, now generally available. Azure public IPs are now zone redundant by default. So it's a no cost extra. A zone redundant IP is created in all 3 zones for a region and can survive any single zone failure, improving resiliency. It's not in every single region, I believe, at the moment. I think it's not all of them, so do go check the documentation. And you can also have it in non-zone redundant as well. If you're using standard public IPs, you can pick a zone. Entra ID support now for SSH connections in the Azure portal. Bastion now supports, in public preview, now supports Entra ID for SSH connections from within the portal. So, yeah,
nice,
big change there. Very good. We like, not that Bastion is our first choice, Alan? But we do like to see modern authentication protocols used. There is now a public preview for some out-of-box monitoring dashboards for Logic Apps Standard. So there's some key sort of insights that you get from these new out-of-box monitoring. It gives you a high-level overview of application health, success rates, runs, actions, and triggers. As sort of an overview screen. Then you've got a workflows area where you can dive into individual workflows and see the status of each run and identify any issues. And then you can delve into each of those runs as well. There's also a compute area where you can monitor the compute utilization to look at performance scalability issues. So, if you're using Logic Apps Standard, go and check that out. It could help. Another public preview for Logic Apps Standard, now introducing template support. Templates are sort of pre-built workflow solutions that are portable between environments. So we like the ability to template, and we like the ability to, especially for disaster recovery, to be able to rebuild. So definitely check that out if it's of interest. Sorry, 2 seconds. Azure Functions now has support for PowerShell 7.4 in general availability. I believe the 7.2 version, I don't know if it's a LTS release. I think it's getting retired soon, so it might be 7.2 or 7.3. I can't remember. But 7.4 is now there. PowerShell and Azure Functions is epic because a lot of people know PowerShell, especially from, on-prem days. It's been around forever, hasn't it? And it's basically .NET, isn't it? It's dangerous, but it's great. Like it is so good. And using PowerShell and Azure Functions is a really good way of getting functions and jobs being created in a really low cost way. So always good to see that they're keeping that up to date. A new kind of scary public preview, live resize for Azure Premium SSE v2s and Ultra disks, dynamically increasing the size of your storage capacity of your disks without causing any disruption to your applications. So this will allow you to reduce costs so you can begin creating smaller disks and gradually increase their storage capacity without experiencing any downtime, according to Microsoft. I have not tried this. I want to try it. So I'd love to hear stories from the trenches on how well that works.
Yeah, I wonder if they changed anything in the hypervisor side of things.
I have
The
no
latest-
idea. I that that preview fills me with dread. But there's some very smart people out there, and it is what year are we? 2024. Sorry, I had to check that. In my mind, I had 2025. I don't know why. Azure Web Pub Sub now has a new public preview to support MQTT. So that you can use the MQTT protocol. It does have to be over WebSocket. I've never used MQTT over WebSocket, so I don't know if that's complicated or not. And you can essentially have a hosted MQTT instance. So, yeah, be interesting to see what organizations are using sort of cloud hosting services for like MQTT and things like that. But I suppose it does reduce dependency locally, so that could be handy. Okay, another update to Logic App Standard. The Logic App Standards team this month seems to have just been on a absolute mad one. There's a new public preview where there is a low-code RAG ingestion, which is with built-in document parsing and chunking. This is essentially the ability to parse a document, chunk the text from content such as PDF, CSV, Excel into tokenized strings, which then allows you to feed that into Azure AI Search and Azure OpenAI to actually be able to search against that data via an LLM. We did an episode, I think, didn't we, on RAG?
Yep.
If I remember rightly. And one of the most complicated, what's RAG stand for? Retrieval, augmented generation, something like that. I've butchered it. I apologize. My brain's gone blank. But essentially, what it means is when you prompt, your inputs get tokenized, and then you do a search in your database for content that is similar to that content using a vector search, and then you pass that back. You attach it back to your prompt that you've put in, and add it as context into the machine learning model, the LLM. What that basically means is that you can ground the LLM in more facts and facts that it wasn't trained on. So things like, if you're in a security role, your operating procedures, your security architecture, if you've got specific formats that you want it to respond in, you can do that. And that parsing of the documents, chunking the text, tokenizing and storing it is complex. That is one of the hardest. It's not the hardest part, but it is a hard part to orchestrate, should I say? So that's part of Logic App Standard now, which is it's a public preview anyway.
It's pretty powerful, isn't it, to add that into
Oh yeah,
you
want to ingest your PDFs and store them in Azure AI Search, then yeah. So mental. Okay. Do we all remember Azure Data Box? I
Yes.
do, because it's probably, I don't know if it's my favorite Azure service.
It's the most unique service.
It probably is, to be honest with you. Or HCI Stack, I'm not sure. Because isn't there a picture with like somebody with like an Azure HCI Stack on their back? Yeah, that's it. In like a grass meadow or something like that. Anyway, we digress. Now generally available, the Azure Data Box, 80 terabyte. I can't remember if that's the one you need a forklift for or not. Is now generally available at Azure China. So who knows how you get it in and out of China, but it is able to. You can only import or export data to and from any of the Azure China regions. That makes more sense to me. Because I think we did an episode, was it last news episode, where we talked about Azure Data Box now goes international, doesn't it, between regions? So
you can send or you can transfer the data internationally. Yeah, it does
correct.
Not just your local region.
Sorry, yeah. So that isn't the case here, but yeah. Anyway, so yeah, cool. But the box doesn't ship internationally, does it? They plug it in local to you and then transfer via their backbone, don't they? Anyway,
Yeah.
I digress. There is now a smaller enterprise cache tier for Azure Cache for Redis. Now, what you'll find with a lot of like PaaS hosted solutions like Redis Cache is when you want grown-up functionality such as high availability, enhanced caching, larger storage sizes, you have to bump up to a enterprise tier. Let me just get the pricing for this. Sorry, I'm typing. I haven't loaded it ahead of time, so apologies for that. And what can happen is that your costs can essentially spiral out of control. You know, there are just some. I can't. Sorry, 2 seconds. I'm trying to do two. Oh, I've got it now. Okay, fine, great. And I'll give this is Redis Cache is a great example because to get active geo replication, a 5 nines high availability SLA, I believe the first tier was funny name, the tier E5, Enterprise 5, with a cache size of 4 gig, moderate network performance, 17,000 client connections. So the total cost per month, because with Azure Redis Cache at the enterprise level, you pay for the infrastructure costs and also the software IP cost. That started at $576 a month. You know, and some organizations don't need to store a lot of data, but they do need high availability, as an example, you know, to meet their availability SLAs and also their DR concerns as well. So they've introduced this E1. You only get 1 gigabyte of size, but the total cost of it is only $101 a month. So it's still $100 a month, but if you don't need to store any more than a gigabyte's worth of data in a Redis cache, and a Redis cache is just used for caching, you know. Microsoft do make the there is a little asterisk which says E1 cache is recommended for dev test only. I probably would ignore that recommendation personally, but if in your dev test environment you do want an enterprise tier to test some of the because there's different modules that you get for Redis in the enterprise tier, so you might need an enterprise one in your dev test environment, so that could legitimately reduce your cost. So I like to see things like that because we don't want those higher tiers with sort of better setups being paywalled away. Azure Application Gateway support for TLS 1.0 and TLS 1.1 will end by the 31st of August 2025. I included that retirement notice because Azure Application Gateway is something I've used. So yeah, August 2025. We'll remind you again. Retirement Azure Front Door is dropping support for TLS 1.0 and TLS 1.1, and the support will end by December 1st, 2024. I don't know if I've called this one out.
Can't remember.
Before. I can't remember it personally. So that doesn't seem very far away. So yeah. Microsoft have a testing tool, an application testing tool called Microsoft Playwright. I'll probably do an episode on it soon, because it is quite cool. It's not specifically Azure, but it's all linked in. There's now a public preview of enhanced reporting and also Microsoft Entra ID authentication in that testing. To get access to the workflows, you can put Entra ID authentication in. And last but not least, there is now a public preview for Azure Functions. .NET 9, can you believe .NET? .NET is on version 9, and we're not talking about the .NET framework either, because we had how many? Oh my god! Well, major versions we didn't get too far, did we? But minor versions we definitely did. .NET 9 supports is now public preview in Linux plans. So yeah, if you want to stay up together with the latest versions of .NET, I think .NET 9 is not an LTS release. I believe it's .NET 8. So this version won't last as long. It won't be in support for as long as the LTS release version 8, I believe. And that's the end of my items.
Wow, that's insane. There was loads.
Except for that 1 month where it seemed like everybody had taken the month off. They've come back to... Kudos to the Logic App Standard team. They've added some really good functionality.
Yeah, well, next month's going to be interesting, isn't it? With Ignite, so
yeah, exactly.
That's going to go absolutely insane, isn't it?
You're just going to be talking for like an hour and a half, aren't you? So
don't worry, listeners, I won't.
Well, no, because you'll be covering all the new AI enhancements, Alan. So you'll be fine.
Yeah, just be an episode.
That was kind of a joke.
Well, I don't know. Just be an episode just on Ignite and AI, and then everything else in another episode, I expect. Cool. Okay. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else that I can think of from kind of the things that I've seen coming in. Let's just think. Nope. So what's the next episode then, Sam?
I'm going to cover Azure Web Jobs. Probably won't be a super long episode, but it's sort of a more, I would say it's a more hidden feature of App Service, being able to add background task for your web apps. But I do want to cover it because it is a challenge that people have with PaaS-hosted web applications. So and I think there's some cool, unique ways that you can use it as well. So we're going to cover that.
That's cool. I've never heard of it.
Excellent.
Yeah, and on a side note, I can't believe we're on like episode 35 this year. It seems
Crazy.
Insane in itself.
Absolutely crazy in them.
Cool. Okay, so did you enjoy this episode? If so, please do consider leaving us a review on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or I think our website now as well. It really helps us to reach out to more people like yourselves. If you do have any specific feedback, suggestions around episodes, or anything you want us to cover, we have a link in our show notes to get in contact with us, or you can add a comment to any of our episodes on YouTube.
Yeah, and if you've made it this far, thanks ever so much for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Yeah, thanks all.